Hello, this is Truman, and here's another great verse for today. It's 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 6. Humble yourself, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, and he will exalt you in due time. If God's going to do great things through you and I, then he must humble us that he may exalt us. We have natural pride, envy, jealousy in our flesh. And God uses not only clean vessels that purge themselves, but he uses humility. He uses those that will give all the honor and glory to the Lord Jesus. There's a great example of God humbling someone and then exalting someone. He did this with Joseph and David, with Jacob. But I'm thinking about Nebuchadnezzar and Daniel chapter 4. In Daniel chapter 4, there's the story of King Nebuchadnezzar. God exalted King Nebuchadnezzar, made him the ruler of the entire world. He was the ruler of the great kingdom of Babylon. And God used him to be a chastening rod to many nations that he was judging. And that included Jerusalem and Judea. Daniel was taken captive to Babylon. And there God exalted Daniel and made him a servant, the right-hand man to Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar had this dream. In this dream, he saw a great tree. Under this tree were all the different animals of the world, and the leaves fed the world, and the birds found rest in the branches of the tree. And it was a picture that God was using Babylon to bring peace and prosperity to the dominions around Babylon, to many nations. But then we find that Nebuchadnezzar was lifted up in pride. And so Daniel interprets his dream. And the dream shows that the great tree was cut down. The stump was left. 7 times or 7 years would pass. King Nebuchadnezzar will be driven from his kingdom and will lose his mind and become like a wild animal, and he will live out in the woods, and he'll eat grass like a cow. And God humbles him in a great way. But then after 7 years, he lifts up his eyes to heaven, and God restores his understanding. And in that humble state, God brings him back to the throne and exalts him. And then he makes some tremendous declarations about God. In Daniel chapter 4, God says, I've done this in order that the living might know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men, and he gives it to whomever he wills and sets over it the lowest of men. Nebuchadnezzar, you were just a low man, and I made you king. Later, we find in Daniel, after Nebuchadnezzar is finally exalted, he declares to his entire kingdom. He says this in verse 34. He said, I lifted up my eyes, my understanding returned to me, and I blessed the Most High and praised and honored him who lives forever. His dominion is an everlasting dominion. His kingdom is from generation to generation. And all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing. He does according to his will in the army of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth. And no one can stay God's hand or say to God, what have you done? And then he says this, I was restored to my kingdom, and excellent majesty was added to me. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, I praise, I extol and honor the King of heaven, all of whose works are truth, his ways justice. Then he says this, and those that walk in pride, he's able to put down. Now, let me encourage you. God is able to lift us up, or he's able to put us down. If he did this with King Nebuchadnezzar, how much more will he do it with his own children? Let me encourage you. This is a promise. If God's going to do great things through you, he first humbles us, creates great humility in our life so that we recognize it's God's hand and God's work and not ours. And if we're puffed up in pride, He's able to put us down. Another great verse for today.